Brother and sister, this is obvious that the first reading of today shows us very clearly the opposition the apostle encountered from the Jewish authorities. For the early Christian communities, persecution did not come as a surprise because Jesus has predicted them. Persecution became even an opportunity for them to bear witness for the risen Lord. They refused to be silent about the resurrection of Jesus. Far from being demoralized by the opposition they encountered, on the contrary, they were glad to suffer for the sake of Jesus. The first reading said, they rejoiced that they had been found worthy to suffer dishonor for the sake of Jesus. Brother and sister, we discover here something strange happening, a strange reality about faith. Faith always seems to grow stronger in time of adversity. Indeed, sometimes faith is born out of adversity. Persecution of the church through history has often been described as a seed of new Christian. Looking and listening Peter in the first reading of today, it is hard to believe that this is the same man who a short time before denied Jesus 3 times. Now he stands his ground and courageously bear witness to Jesus, and he is ready to suffer for that stand. Ever since the time of the apostle, there has been many Christians in different parts of the world who have witnessed to the gospel in the most difficult circumstances, and who have to defend their faith and even suffer because of their faith. And the more they experience such things, the stronger their faith grew. Is it very different for us today? Yes, I think in a sense it is different. We who are trying to live a Christian life in our days are not faced with martyrdom, not even with hostility or contempt. But we can to say that we are faced with something even worse. We are faced with the deadly indifference of many of our fellow countrymen. Obviously, the challenge facing us today in our modern world is indifference rather than hostility. Hostility pays religion the compliment of taking it seriously, but indifference, by definition, does not. So, to practice one faith is becoming more difficult. We live now in a society that is largely secular. And in such a society, people of faith tend to be regarded as irrelevant. The excessive materialism of today that search for money and wealth above all else is dissolving religious tradition even more quickly than what is happening under communism. But we must never forget that we are disciples of Jesus. He depends on us to bear witness to him in the world of today. As Christians, we have to be in the world while not allowing ourselves to be absorbed by the world. In the Gospel of today, we see Peter completely demoralized by the death of his master and probably still ashamed to have denied him. So we see Peter allowing himself to be absorbed by his previous work, so deciding to go back to fishing. But instead of writing Peter off after his terrible denial, Jesus was waiting him in the corner at the time he came back to the shore. Then Jesus did not demote Peter. Jesus knew that Peter's denial was not a planned thing, as was Judas' betrayal. It was just the result of a moment of weakness rather than malice. Jesus knew that there was another and a better side to Peter. From there, Jesus restored a more humble, a wiser Peter to where he was before, and he made him the chief shepherd of his flock. In giving authority to a man who denied him, Jesus showed that he was establishing his church, not relying on human strength and capacity, but relying on his own love and faithfulness. Even though Jesus kept no record of Peter's sins, I am sure that Peter on his side never forgot the fact that he had denied Jesus. But the most important was that Peter learned something from his fault. First, he learned a very painful truth about himself. He learned that he was not as strong or as brave as he thought he was. And this is the same for us. What we are and what we think we are two very different things. Secondly, Peter learned also a wonderful truth about Jesus. He learned that in spite of his denial, Jesus still loved him. It was this love that brought Peter back to life. And it is just the same for us. This is Jesus' love that brings us back to life. Brother and sister, we can say that Peter is a great consolation to us. The frailty we see in him, we recognize them in ourselves. All of us are mortal human beings who are often inconstant in our belief. Like Peter, we are self-divided, a mixture of strength and weakness, a mixture of courage and cowardice, a mixture of generosity and selfishness. The story of Peter shows how easy it is to fall, but it also shows us that it is possible to get up again after a fall and to put it behind us. In short, Peter's story is one of calling, falling, and recalling. It showed that Christ's call does not exclude falls. A vocation is not something one hear once and answer once. No, the Lord's call has to be heard many times and has to be responded to many times. Each day, a part of the chosen path open up before us, a part that we have never traveled before. And as one goes on, the call gets deeper and the response becomes more interior, more personal, but also stronger and bolder, just as we see in the first reading of today. Brother and sister, in this Eucharist, let us ask God to strengthen our faith as Jesus did with Peter. Amen.